Our topic for today is how to balance a chemical equation. Okay, chemical equation is the representation of a chemical reaction that are the elements or a particular compound, a molecule that was participated in a particular chemical reaction. So in balancing a chemical equation, we follow a what we call law, such as the conservation of mass. Yes. So take for example, if we have here a molecule such as a 2O2, this is an element, symbol for the oxygen. We have the subscript, and we also have the coefficient. Right. So in balancing a chemical equation, it's very important to know that there are two sides in terms of the chemical equation. So if you look upon it, we have, for example, the formation of water molecules. Yeah, let's check. So in the formation of water molecules, such as the formation of water, yeah, and the formation of water, it adds up at H2 plus O2 yield what we call H2O. A primary rule, if we want to know that the equation or a chemical reaction participated at that part are balanced, we must be familiar that there is a what we call the reactant and the product side. So we have here in this equation is the reactant and we have the product. Ayan. So the primary rule, in order for us to know whether the equation is balanced or not, there should be an equal number of moles, equal number of grams, or equal number of molecules in both reactant and product of an equation. In this equation, can we check if there's an equal part or equal number of reactant and product in that equation? So let's check. So for this reactant, we have two hydrogen molecules. So let me represent a hydrogen molecule with a full circle. So we have two hydrogen molecules. And at that part, we need to add it by two oxygen as well. So oxygen is not shaded circle. And it will yield what we call two molecule of hydrogen. So I have here two molecule of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen. Yeah. So if we try to have a counter check in terms of the numbers, hydrogen is only composed of two, oxygen is two, while on this part we have hydrogen and oxygen as our check. Wait for a while in order for us to be clarified regarding with this. Let me draw at the side or at the center of the reactant, the yielded part, an equal sign. Their elements of hydrogen and oxygen. Okay. So ang hydrogen at that part, the reactant is equal to 2. Oxygen is also equal to 2. But on the side of our product, hydrogen is equal to 2 and oxygen is equal to 1. So, meaning to say, that is not balanced. Right? Primary rule is that to balance a chemical equation, we all need to add at the subscript. We cannot change, we need to add at the coefficient. We cannot change, remember, we cannot change the subscript of a molecule. Likewise, we cannot add within a molecule. So H2O, gusto kong baguhin yung 2, we cannot do that. Or even I need to add before oxygen coefficient, we cannot do that. Okay, that's our primary rule. So to begin with that, we need to understand how to balance this particular equation. So paano gagawing balance ng equation na to? If I try to add another molecule of H2O because I cannot add two oxygen only. So thereafter, I need to add two. If I add two H2O, meaning to say, I need to have one of this one and one of the shaded part. So at that counter check, I already have 2 plus 2. Meron na ako ngayong, I have 4 molecule of hydrogen because 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 4. And I have 2 molecule of 2 multiplied by 2 oxygen. Yes. So I need to change this one as well. Nicely. Okay. I have 2 in terms of oxygen. I have 4 in terms of hydrogen. So this part deposits a what we call hydrogen molecule. Now, if I add 2 hydrogen here, it will be equal to 4. So I need to add 2 here. If I add 2 molecule of hydrogen here, then the number is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I have 1, 2, 1, 2, which makes our equation a balanced equation. So that's how we figure out whether the equation is balanced or not balanced. Okay? Take for another example. Let's check for another example. What is the interpretation of this balance equation? Let's check muna. What will be the interpretation of this balance equation? So if we have 2H2O or 2H2 plus O2 will yield a 2H2O. In terms of their molecule, we have two molecules. Tama? We have two molecules plus one molecule plus one molecule, two molecule of hydrogen, one molecule of oxygen will give us two molecules, right? So meaning to say, if we have 2H2O, we have 2 mole plus 1 mole will also give us 2 mole, right? And if we try to find out their molecular masses, we can say that at that particular part, 2 multiplied by H, that is in particular, their atomic masses is 1.01. So dahil dalawa to, it should be 2.02 grams, right? 2.02 grams plus oxygen is 16, right? So 16 multiplied by 2, that is 32 grams. Will yield 2H2O. So we have 2H2O. 2H2O or 2 molecule of hydrogen is 2.02. Tama? It will become 4. That is 2 multiplied by 2.02 plus 32 grams as well. So let's look at it for our calculator. 2.2 multiplied by 2.02 plus 32, the answer is 36.04 grams. And also yield a 2 multiplied by 2.02 plus 32 grams. The answer is 36.04 grams as well. So at this particular interpretation, we can find out that the energy in terms of the conservation of mass, that the mass of the reactant is being conserved in terms of the reaction, overall reaction, towards the product or the mass of our product. That's why it follows what we call law of conservation of mass. Another example. Take for an example, let's try to balance this equation. In laboratory, a small amount of oxygen gas can be prepared by heating a potassium chlorate or KClO3. Okay? The products are oxygen gas and potassium chloride. So let's try to write that equation. So in laboratory setup, we have potassium, heating the potassium chlorate. So we add a heat in terms of potassium chlorate, which is KClO3. And it will yield, according to our equation, it will yield the product of oxygen gas, which is O2. Am I correct? Ano? Oxygen gas and potassium chloride. That's all right. That's all right, the potassium chloride, because oxygen gas will be diffused. So we have KCl plus O2. So in balancing this equation, we need to have a checkpoint. I-check muna natin in order for us to know whether the equation is balanced or not balanced. So we have potassium, chlorine, and oxygen. It's a potassium chlorate. Remember the word, it's a potassium chlorate. Lagay ko potassium chlorate. Add a heat on it and produce a KCl, which is a what we call potassium chloride. And oxygen gas. Okay. Okay. So with this equation, we need to find or to know the number. So K is only 1. Chlorine is only 1. Oxygen composed of 3. Next, K is equal to 1. Cl is equal to 1. And oxygen is equal to 2. Notice that I write the oxygen number at the last part because baka mabago ko tong part na to mamaya. Baka. Okay. So to change or to balance the equation, we need to find a number that if we try to multiply, it will be equal to it. Okay? It will be equal to that part. So let's try to find out. So if we have 1 here, Cl1 here, it can either be add that if I try to multiply it by 2, it will be only equal to 4. So wala naman number. There's no number that if I multiply by 3, the answer is 4 unless I add by 1. But we cannot add it by 1, right? So we need to think for a number because our problem is oxygen right now. Okay. So in other way, if I try to multiply 2 to 3, for example, that is equal to 6. Then if I try yung 3 multiply by 2, that is equal to 6 as well. So it might work out. It's a trial and balance. Let's try to check it out. So I need to add 3 here. I need to add 2 here. In our reactant, and we have the product part. Don't worry, that's correct part of the equation because in it, there are different types of equation such as the composition reaction or even a synthesis reaction. This type of reaction in which we have a molecule and we decompose it into two, such as potassium chloride and oxygen gas, this is a type of decomposition reaction. But if we try to put two raw elements into one molecule, we are in the combination reaction or synthesis reaction. At the second part, we are in the particular of decomposition. We decompose, meaning to say we separate the element into two particular molecules. Okay, so if I have here 6 multiplied by 2 is 3, then 2 multiplied by Cl, because we are in the coefficient, meaning to say the Cl will be multiplied as well by 2, and also the K will also multiply by 2. That is equivalent to 2. and this is equivalent to, right? At this point, kailangan ko I need to multiply this part into 2 as well. So I just need to put 2 here in order to make our equation a balanced equation. Yan. That's how we operate on how to balance a chemical equation as well. So this is also a balanced equation. Why? If we have oxygen number of 6 on both sides, 2 on both sides, both product and reactant side, and also for potassium, which makes our equation a balanced equation because there's the same number of reactants and products as the equation goes on. Okay? Let's have another example. Let's have a combustion reaction. A combustion is a type of reaction which includes burning of the natural components of different types of an element. Such as, I have here a combustion of, remember that the product of combustion is always water. That's a particular part of a chemical reaction. When we say it's a combustion reaction, its product always composed of a water molecule. It's precipitate. Okay? Take for an example, a gas component, ethane. Ethane, its molecular formula in organic chemistry is C2H6. Ethane in oxygen or air, which yield in oxygen or air, will yield, sabi dito, it will yield carbon dioxide or CO2, and of course, a water molecule. And so let's try to find out if this equation is already a balanced equation. Again, let's write their molecule at the yield part sa ilalim. CH and O. So at the reactant side, we have carbon is equal to 2, hydrogen is equal to 6, and oxygen is equal to 2. Okay, let me arrange this one para hindi ako malito for a while. So we have 2 here, I have 6 here, and I have 2 here. Why do I need to go to put that in that way? Or why do I need to write that way? Because I need to add any coefficient in case mamaya to balance this equation. Okay? Okay. So at this part in particular, I have 1 carbon, I have 2 oxygen, I have 1 hydrogen, 2 hydrogen here, plus 1 oxygen. So I need to put here, I need to isolate those because it can be affected mamaya. Okay? So try to find out. So, this equation is not balanced. Kita pa lang naman, oxygen is equal to 2, and this part is 4. We need to think of a number. And also here, unless the hydrogen, let's check, a number that can be multiplied by 2 to make it 6 is none other than 3. Am I correct? So, if I try to multiply it by 3, this part, so it will be 3 multiplied by 2, and it will be 3. Try to find out. It's a trial and error. Medyo mahirap siya. Because if I add 1 plus 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, there's no number na pag nilagay ko doon can be multiplied by 5 unless 2 plus 3. But in that case, it will not happen. Any number. Let's all try to think of a number to balance this equation. unless we think of a bigger number. Okay, so we have here H2O. Let's check. Put it 6 here, a bigger number for that. So 6 multiplied by 2 and 6 multiplied by the hydrogen itself, which is 6. So this will be equal to 6 multiplied by 2 is 12, and 2 is 6. So dapat there should be a number na pag minultiply ko dito is equal to 6, right? And that number is equal to I need to be careful because I still have oxygen here, which is equal to 2. I try to multiply this number by 4. Then 4 of carbon. I need to multiply it by 2 as well later on. Then plus 4 here. So 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. Plus 6. Am I correct with that? Oh, yeah. So 2 multiplied by 4 oxygen is 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. Then 6 plus 8 is equal to what? That is equivalent to 14. So ito yung pinaka-final number natin. For a while. So 6. That is equivalent to 14. So there is a number na pag minultiply ko sa 2, the answer is 14. And that is 7. Right? So 7 to. The number of carbon is 12 here. So any number na gagamitin ko or any number in a chance in order for me to produce 12 multiplied by 2, of course. So we have here, and it should be also multiplied by 2. So 6 is 12, and we have 4. So this is what we call a balance equation for this chemical reaction. So 2C2H6 plus 7O2 will yield a 4CO2 plus 6H2O. Set point, 4 carbon on both sides, 12 hydrogen on both sides, and 14 oxygen. 14 oxygen on both sides. That's why I need to isolate this number because nakakalito siya, medyo confusing pag pinagdikit natin at pinag-add agad natin sila. That's why we need to be careful in balancing a chemical equation like this. Let's try to have another example. When aluminum metal is exposed to air, a protective layer of aluminum oxide or La2O3 forms on its surface. This layer prevents further reaction between the aluminum and the oxygen, and is the reason that aluminum beverage cans do not corrode. In this case of iron or RAS or iron 3 oxide that forms is too porous to protect the iron metal underneath, so rusting continues. Write the balance equation for the formation of La2O3. So the unbalanced equation for that process is that Al or aluminum multiplied by oxygen will yield the Al2O3. Yeah, Al2O3 because in the naming of compound, recall natin yung crisscross method, this is the precise way of writing the aluminum oxide. Yeah. So aluminum, oxygen, and this is aluminum oxide. Yeah. Let's try to balance this equation. So aluminum, oxygen, we all know. Just an O only. Okay, so 1 and 2, Al is 2, oxygen is 3. Dito lang dapat tayo mag-multiply. O mag-a-add sa coefficient lamang tayo magbabago. So in doing that, let's try to check. If I try to put 2 here. So it will be equal to 4 multiplied by 2. The answer is 6. So for oxygen, it should be multiplied by 3 for it to become 6. Right? For aluminum, it should be multiplied by 4 to make it equal to 4. So thereafter, this is our balanced chemical equation for this reaction. Okay? Are we clear with that? We can state that an equation is balanced once there is the same number or the same value of all numbers in terms of their molecule, in terms of their particular elements on both sides of the reaction. It's either it's in the reactant or product side of our chemical reaction. Okay? I hope that's clear to you. Thank you for watching. Hi guys.